Pradhan on behalf of Lloyd Business School. Welcome our eminent speaker for today's session, Ms Nilakshi Goel Kapoor, ma'am, all my faculty colleagues and the students who have joined this webinar. Lloyd constantly strives to build knowledge for its young managers by bringing astute leaders and faculty to augment their learning in order to address the future managers with the latest developments in the corporate world. Lloyd has taken the initiative to conduct expert talk series called Enhancing Employability Skills for Budding Managers. And today we are having our 9th expert talk on living in a VUCA world. Without much ado, I would like you to introduce to our eminent speaker. We are honored to have with us Ms Nilakshi Goel Kapoor, ma'am, who has around 12 years of experience in academics. She is a BTech in Information Technology and MBA in HR and Marketing from Ms Business School. Currently, she is pursuing her PhD in the area of HR. With an aim of making students placement ready, she has designed and implemented customized training modules. Her areas of interest include research related to knowledge management and HR. I welcome you, ma'am, and would now hand over the session to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Purnima, ma'am. I hope my voice is clearly audible to everybody out there.
I think, to me it's fine. What about the rest of the students? They can
all right, so I've received messages, ma'am. So I believe it is audible. And I hope my screen can be seen by everybody. All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. So I'm starting with this session now. So a very good morning to all the attendees of this session, especially my students and faculty colleagues. So we are going to have a session on a very interesting topic. To me, it is very interesting. I hope by the end of the session, I would make sure that you would also find some interest into this topic. But before that, I have a few, I would say, I would not call them rules, but this is how I function, right? So I want each one of you to be very, very attentive, right? Because I would try and make it a bit interactive, okay? So it is going to be a two-way process rather than a one-way teaching methodology by my side. So I would like to know how many of you are listening and willing to participate in this session eagerly and attentively. Just raise your hand virtually. You have an option of raising your hand, right? So I can see 3, 12, the numbers are rising. So total, I can see there are 84 participants, out of which I can see around 38 or 40 people have shown interest. Well, I would really urge all of you to be participative and enthusiastic, because learning always is a two-way process. 37 is the maximum number that I've seen. I would urge all of you to be responsive. All right. So the numbers are rising, and thank you so much for your interest. So whenever I call for your responses, you may respond by raising your hand, right? And I might ask you to talk. I'll pass on. I'll be sharing and amending the settings accordingly. Okay. In the other case where I would want everybody's participation into this session, you might write your responses in the chat box. So this is how you're going to interact over here. Now let's begin the session. The theme of today's talk is living in a VUCA world. It's a very, very famous saying that the only constant in this world is change, right? Or I would say change is the only constant in this world. Ever since the human beings have evolved, the only thing that hasn't changed is change itself, right? It is a constant process, and we all keep evolving with changing times. So in today's session, we are going to have a look at what VUCA world actually is, what it means for us, and how we are going to accommodate ourselves in this changing world. So what VUCA actually stands for? So in this particular word, the acronym here, V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C for complexity, and A for ambiguity. Let's try to understand what these terms actually are. As I said, V is nothing but volatility, which is the speed of change in an industry, market, or the world in general. The speed of change makes it unpredictable and unstable. Now, we are interacting with a lot of organizations these days. We are interacting with a lot of people these days, and technology is making it possible. Remember the time when the pandemic struck? Remember, if it would have happened 100 years back, I think our job and your education would have suffered a lot. But because the speed of change is such that we are, customizing ourselves, we are accommodating ourselves, and we are adapting ourselves to this changing world. So volatile nature of the industry, of any industry for that matter, is the first thing. Second is uncertainty. It refers to the extent to which we can confidently predict the future. With the help of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and whatnot, we are making, even though the world is uncertain, but since with the help of technology, we are making sure that we are able to predict the things that are uncertain and make ourselves future ready. For example, if I talk about the IT professionals, even though their skills that they have acquired right now would get outdated in times to come. So they have to foresee, they have to, gauge this, that what is that technology that would make them sustainable in the near future? Because past experiences, they do not apply anymore. We have to be quick in changing ourselves into this uncertain environment, right? C stands for complexity. And what is complexity? It refers to the number of factors that we need to take into account, their variety and the relationships between them. There is not one factor that is impacting a particular thing. There is a mix and a multiple number of factors that is impacting one particular thing, right? And last but not the least is ambiguity, which refers to a lack of clarity about how to interpret something. Ambiguity means that why and how we are not able to get something very, very clearly, when one thing might have multiple meanings, when there could be complicated relationships between the entities that exist. Ambiguity is bound to happen. So in this VUCA world, as I said earlier, we all are a part of it already, even if we like it, even if we don't, even if we accept it or if we don't, irrespective of that, we are actually living in this kind of a world. Remember the days when we used to use, we have used, like the people of my generation, we have used dial-up connection initially. And then now we are close to using 5G, right? We are using high-speed internet. Apart from that, there were times when we used to use those floppy disks, the CD drives, the CD writers and everything. And now, the data is being stored at cloud, and the things are becoming so easy and so accessible. And we are actually a part of it, right? So, as I said earlier, even if we like it or we don't, even if we accept it or we don't, we are a part of this VUCA world. And it is high time that we realize that, if the world is changing, do we need to change ourselves? The answer is yes, because change, as I said earlier, is the only constant. Having said this, now we have realized what the problem is, right? And we agree that there is a problem. And I believe that for every problem, yes, Jyotsna and everybody, you may lower your hands right now. It was only for the acknowledgement purpose. So all the 24 attendees who have raised their hand are free, are not bound to keep their hands raised, right? And I'm thankful that it is a virtual, methodology. Anyway, so as I said earlier, if there is a problem, there has to be a solution, right? So what is the solution? How do we need to survive in this VUCA world? So let's move on to the solution part. Before I move on to the solution part, I would like to tell you a small story. Okay? I hope all of us like listening to stories. We all love stories, and we learn a lot of things out of these stories. So let's listen to a very, very simple, short, and a very beautiful story of a small bird, which is there in the brown color in this picture. Right. So this story is about this little bird, right? Which eventually happened to be the baby of an eagle. But as you can see in the picture, it is surrounded by chickens, right? So let's call the mother of these chickens as Mrs. Hen, right? So they were living as a family. The babies of this Mrs. Hen, let's call them chickens, and the baby owl, they were not owl, but baby eagle, they were all living together in a family. Now what happened is that by mistake, this small eagle was left along with the chickens, and it started growing up with these small chickens under the guidance and under the supervision of Mrs. Hen. Now one day what happened is, these small babies, these little chickens and this baby eagle, they saw a huge bird flying in the sky, as you can see over here. They all saw a huge bird flying in the sky. Now all these little birds, all these chickens and baby eagle, they started thinking in their minds that what exactly is this? Because they are new to this world, they are still customizing themselves to the environment, and they really don't know who is who, right? So they looked up into the sky and they realized that who is this big bird? We have never seen this kind of a bird before. The little eagle, it asked its siblings that, can you please tell me who this big bird is? Now, one of the chickens, it said, he's the king of the sky. The another chicken, he said that this is an eagle, that? He's the king of the sky. But we are chickens, we cannot even fly. We don't have that kind of wings. And, we are destined to be something else. But this bird who's flying in the sky is called the king of the sky. Now, this little eagle was thinking loud in his mind. One day, this little eagle got an opportunity to meet the big bird, which is eagle, right? So the bigger eagle was anxious to know and was curious to know what this little bird is doing here. So he said that, what are you doing here? This little eagle said, what do you mean? The big eagle said, what are you doing here with the chickens? The little eagle then said, I am a chicken. And these little birds, they are my family. I live here with my mother, Mrs. Hen, and the smaller birds that you see, they are chicken, and I belong to this family. To his surprise, the bigger bird, he said, you are an eagle. To which the little bird was not able to, to comprehend that. He said, I cannot even fly. How can you call me an eagle? I just can't even fly. Then to which the big bird, it said, that's why, because you've never tried. You've never tried to be an eagle. You've always lived with those kind of people with their own, mindset and their own shortcomings, and you've never tried flying. I would urge you to try it now. So this is what the big bird said to the small bird. Let's find out what happened next. Again, the smaller bird had said, I am a chicken. It's my family. I cannot even fly. But, and he said all these things to the little chickens over there. But because the little chickens were so acclimatized and so accustomed to not flying, they said that don't listen to him. He's tricking you. He's not a part of our family. He's probably tricking you. He probably might eat you or take you away from us. But the small bird was a bit convinced in his mind, and he said that let me try once. Let me give it a try. What happened next? He aimed at the sky. He went on the top of a cliff. He aimed at the sky and he started flying. And the time he started flying, he never looked back. So what am I trying to reinforce over here is that world, surely it changes. It is a VUCA world. It will always be uncertain. It will always be complicated. It will always be ambiguous, right? But the only thing that is going to be constant is the faith in our own selves. If we truly believe who we are, if we truly are guided by our own principles, and if we are truly guided by our belief in our own self, we can conquer each and everything in this world, right? So I would like to ask each one of you, how many of you want to be an eagle amongst the chickens? You may acknowledge me by raising your hand, as you did earlier. Okay, so the numbers are increasing and I'm really happy about it. Not for the fact that you are attentive, but for the fact that you are a step ahead of the others and you actually will conquer the world someday. Okay, so I can see plenty of responses. You may unraise your hand now. Thank you so much. Okay, so I believe you understood the story, and please read between the lines. What I'm trying to communicate over here is that if you believe in yourself, if you have confidence in yourself, you can accomplish anything in that world for that matter, right? In addition to that, in this VUCA world, we need to have certain skills, right? To survive. So let's have a look at what skills have to be there in order to survive. The first and foremost skill is leadership skill. Amongst the many, I'm starting my talk with this. So this is one skill that we need to have, right? So in this changing world, you might have heard of hybrid working mode, right? There are people who have started going to offices. There are people who are still working from home. There are people who are partially working from home, or I would say anywhere in the world. So as a leader, at times it becomes very difficult to make everybody realize that and to ensure that somebody who's working from a remote location versus somebody who's working from the office premises, are they devoting their 100% efforts into that, right? So being a good leader means motivating the employees intrinsically, right? So now I believe all my audience belongs to a set of people who are going to pursue MBA, or I would say you've already started pursuing your MBA. So in times to come, you would become, you might start working for some good corporate houses. In next 3-4 years, you might become team leaders, or let's say, managers, or assistant managers, or, general managers in times to come. You would be having this kind of a skill, and even if you like it or not, even if you, ensure this right now or not, but yes, this is one skill that people expect out of you. You acquire this through practice, no doubt about it, but then you need to acclimatize yourself. You need to understand this, that with changing times, this skill has to be nurtured in a right manner, right? Anyways, let's move on to the next skill that is required to survive in the VUCA world, which is being tech savvy. And I think we all have realized this thing. If we see small kids around us, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or if we see grown-up people who are into their 20s, 30s, or 40s, or even if you see your grandparents who probably are in their 60s or 70s, everybody is becoming tech savvy. That is the need of the hour, right? And I would like to quote the time of pandemic here. The studies of a kid who's right now in nursery class, to people like you who were probably in their graduation, to people like us who were working from remote locations, or probably who were not working at all. All of us had to understand the importance of being tech savvy, right? But yes, there are people who have faced challenges, but the people who have came out of it really well are the ones who are quick learners. We need to understand the importance of using technology. We need to understand the importance of getting ourselves acclimatized to changing technologies, right? And one thing that will stay with us forever is that we have to be lifetime learners, right? So being tech savvy is another thing. That's the next skill that is required to survive in this VUCA world. Next is remote working. We have seen a lot of people around us. Like I have seen people in my family, in my friends circle, or I would say, I've observed a lot of my students who completed their graduation or post-graduation in an online mode. I'm talking about the year 2020, 2021, right? Their hiring process was conducted in an online mode. They started working in an online mode only, and right now they're about to complete their first work anniversaries, that too in online mode, right? So in addition to, and that's how, by the way, we will also train you in times to come. So when we train you on interview skills or group discussion skills, we work in 2 ways now. One is a physical group discussion, another is a virtual group discussion. One is a physical face-to-face interview, another is a virtual interview, because the dynamics of these two environments are completely different, right? So for example, if you are being hired to work as, in a remote setting, it could be challenging for some, it could be an advantage for some. But what is required is we need to find a quiet space, a well-lit corner, and finding these kind of things could be challenging, but then we have to search for it, right? It could be stressful for some, because there are people, I mean, most of us, we like interacting with our colleagues, we like social interactions, we like sharing our lunch with each other. But for some, it could be, a blessing in disguise, right? So what is the solution to work in this kind of a situation is we need to develop hobbies. We need to be good at managing our time. We need to be, very, very organized when it comes to remote working. So this is how we can, start working on this skill as well, because yes, the lessons that we have learned from the pandemic are yet to stay, and it might be a real case for some of us, if not all. Next is adapting to change. Now, if I may call it a skill, this is very much required. Like, so we have to be flexible. right? There were times when one job was considered to be there with you for the entire lifetime, because the things are changing, the industries are changing. So people look for their growth, people look for, better, opportunities to work. So this might force you to become somebody who adapts to the changing world very well. Right, so that's another skill that would help us in acclimatizing ourselves to the VUCA world. Resilience. Now, what resilience actually means? Now, many of us, we fail, sometimes, and that is completely fine. Success is a lifelong phenomenon. It's a step-by-step process, and when we are achieving that success, we are bound to fail at times, which is completely okay. But most youngsters, they feel that if I fail once, I am a failure. Do not think like that. Now, what is resilience? It is the ability to bounce back in times of adversity. For example, if I may quote the times of pandemic here, there were so many people around us who lost their jobs, right? So the people who bounced back, who came out with the full enthusiasm and energy, they are still striving, and they're doing better than many of us. So if you have to be resilient, you have to be self-aware, and you have to be very, very mindful of your thoughts. The next skill that is required to survive in this VUCA world is creativity and innovation, right? Whatever thing you do, whether it is very small or very complicated, make sure you showcase your creativity over there, right? There are so many companies who have been very creative, and they have responded very well through their creativity. For example, if I may quote the name of a very famous car manufacturing company, which is Mercedes. So it moved on from manufacturing racing cars to making breathing aids, right, at the time of pandemic. So creativity and innovation might help you out in changing world, right? There were so many people who have acquired a lot of skills. So for example, somebody became a very good person at digital marketing. Somebody became a very good programmer or a data coder, right? So being creative and innovative will going to sail you through the complex environment. Then is effective virtual communication, right? We need to learn and understand the art of being creative, but for that, communication is going to help you out in a big way. Most of us think that अगर किसी को अंग्रेजी आती है ना तो उसका communication बहुत अच्छा है, and I completely disagree with that. That might sound strange, but yes, English is not a phenomenon or a measure or a yardstick to measure your intelligence. It is just a language. So if I say that it is just a language, and if you have to work on your communication skills, what you have to think about. Let me take you to the most important slide of this entire talk, and I would like to correlate it with the slide wherein I showcase that communication and virtual communication is something that you need to work on. Now, if you look at this slide, this is the overall impact of your communication. So if you want to be impactful through your communication, these are the ingredients based on which your communication could be effective. So the words that you use holds just an importance of 7%. अंग्रेजी जो आप कहते हैं उसका जो impact है that is 7%. So what is remaining 93%? So 38% is tone of voice. If you are interacting with one person, आपको किस तरीके से बात करनी है? If you are talking to, let's say, a set of 100 people, how loud you have to be, how much pause you have to take in between two words, things related to that. And the most important thing is body language. The way you sit, the way you stand, the way you use your hand movements, the way you maintain an eye contact if you're looking at the other person or not. And don't worry about it. We are going to learn and understand all these concepts in our courses in times to come. So rest assured, we are going to work on all these parameters, right? Moving back, this is a glimpse. Now you might get, please don't get confused. I would like to, to share a small anecdote with all of you. So it is a time when the pandemic just struck and we were conducting all the sessions online. And I believe you all have also done that you used to shut down your camera and never used to interact with the teacher or probably with your classmates. But in the next slide, I'm showcasing the picture of my students who probably are your super seniors right now. And I used to make sure that each one of them sit appropriately in front of the camera, participate with full enthusiasm, and have a smiling face. So I got an opportunity to capture this, and I very proudly say that these kids are placed at very good organizations right now, and I am actually very, very proud of them, right? So with this, and with permission of Dr. Purnima, may I end this session now, ma'am?
Sure, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay. So my last question to all of you, and you all may respond by raising your hand, that how many of you are ready for change? How many of you are willing to survive in this VUCA world by acquiring all these skills that we just discussed about? Okay, so I can see around 40 people, 44, 50, that's great. Right. So we need to understand that we need to convert this volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity into vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So thank you so much, everybody. Over to you, Dr. Purnima.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would request everyone to kindly please share your questions, because in many of the sessions, you all were asking about, a lot of questions related to skills. So this is your chance right now, and you can please ask and put your questions to ma'am. Now, can we take a few questions? There are, few questions which are there.
Sure, ma'am.
I think it's Ankit, and he says that how does VUCA influence our mindset?
Okay, so I would try to answer this question, Ankit. See, what impacts our mindset is how we perceive that thing to be. And as you can see in the current slide, if you think VUCA to be volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, but if you, with your understanding, if you try to convert it into vision of your life, understanding of your goals, clarity about your actions, and agility in whatever you do, I think we can create a win-win situation for everybody. So VUCA, yes, it is critical. It is very, very complicated. But with the correct thought process, with the correct thoughts, we can create it a win-win situation for all of us who are involved.
Thank you, ma'am. There is one related question which says, by Christian B, he says, how do we prepare ourselves for VUCA world?
Okay. Well, I would like to share 3 tips as per my understanding and as per my knowledge. First is accept whatever is happening and think about what you can do about that particular thing. So for example, if there is something that is not in your control, let's not think about it that much. But if there is something that you can control and you can change with your own efforts, let's focus on that. For example, we cannot change how a particular industry functions, but we sure can upskill ourselves. So upskilling probably is one thing that is going to help us out in the VUCA world, acquiring yourself with a new skill set. For example, if I talk about IT industry, as I quoted earlier, there are so many languages that people can learn. If I talk about management field, business analytics is one thing that we all can equip ourselves with, right? How technology is going to be is going to impact our lives, we can very well understand that, and with the understanding of that, we can upskill ourselves.
Thank you, ma'am. There is one more question. The person's name is not written. He's, he and she says that what is the ultimate purpose of VUCA?
Ultimate purpose of VUCA. See, the ultimate purpose, see, the world has always been VUCA. It's just that the moment we realize that it is going to impact ourselves, what we have started doing is we have, you might have heard of this term called forecasting, or you might have heard of this term called change management, or a related term which says that adapting ourselves to the changing environment. So this VUCA world is only showing us a mirror as to how our future could be, and accordingly, we can change ourselves.
There is one more question from Rishabh, and he says, what resources do I have available that I can call upon right now?
Ma'am, resources in terms of Rishabh, can you please explain your question if you can. Can you write down in the chat box?
Meanwhile, he's writing. There is another question from Jyotsna, and she says, "Ma'am, can you please explain the shortest and simplest meaning of VUCA world is all about which change?"
Okay. Okay, so I would like to quote an example here, right? So imagine a person who used to go to office, let's say 30 to 40 years back. He used to pick up his bag, he used to pick up his tiffin box, and he used to enter his office. He used to sit at a place, open his files, work on those files, wrap up everything by the end of the day, and come back to his, home. But right now, imagine a person who's working in the corporate world. Can you think of similar situation to happen with him? I believe no, because there's so many things that have changed. For example, technology has started playing a big role, right? Second is teamwork has started, playing, or it is actually playing a big role in so many things related to our lives. A person cannot work in isolation. He or she has to interact with people, has to be a part of a team, and has to be a go-getter, right? So VUCA world is not just about how environment is changing. So there are six PESTLE, I would say, the 6 factors that we need to talk about. One is political, right? Economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So everything we can see, everything or the factors related to all these 6 things are changing. Consequently, we also have to change.
Thank you, ma'am. Rishabh has typed that the resources he is asking about related to VUCA world. Maybe he is addressing to the skill sets as resources which are available, which are available to us.
Right. So Rishabh, I think I tried giving you an answer. Right. The first of and foremost is being tech savvy. Right. So we need to understand that we need to get ourselves accustomed to the changing technology. We cannot say that मुझे नहीं आता है इस टेक्नोलॉजी पे काम करना, या फॉर एग्जांपल अगर किसी एक पर्टिकुलर सॉफ्टवेयर का आप ओल्डर वर्जन यूज कर रहे हैं, उसका लेटेस्ट वर्जन आपको यूज करना नहीं आता है. We cannot say that, right? We cannot say that I cannot work virtually because I'm not I have not learned this particular software. That's one aspect, right? Next is resilience, never giving up attitude. Or even if you fail, you pick yourself up and move on in the right direction. That's another skill, if I can quote as an answer to this question. Then is creativity and innovation. You have to be creative in smallest of the small things that you do and biggest of the big things that you do in your life, right? So I think these are the the core points that could help us out in this VUCA world.
There are 2 related questions by 2 people, Krishnaveer and Aman, and they say, what is the most important thing to consider in a VUCA world?
Most important thing is how you perceive it to be. Do you take it as a challenge or an opportunity, or you take it as a blessing in disguise, or you get threatened by it? हम किसी चीज को किस तरीके से accept करते हैं changes our behavior altogether. Our behavior are definitely going to control our actions, which is definitely going to control our thought process. So for example, let's talk about 2 students. एक ने जिसने इस VUCA world को एक challenge की तरह accept किया, and he started working in the right direction, equipping himself with the right skill set, upskilling himself. और दूसरा बच्चा जो डर गया, जिसने कहा कि नहीं, this is something जो मुझे सिखाया ही नहीं था. See, colleges can teach you a particular skill set, लेकिन वो skill set 10 साल के बाद शायद valid नहीं रहेगा. तो उस 10 साल के duration में, whether you have equipped yourself with the changing things or not, शायद जो दूसरा बच्चा है ना, जिसका जो मैं example में quote कर रही हूँ, that person might fail because he would put the blame on the college कि मुझे नहीं सिखाया था, right? लेकिन जो first student है, उसने शायद इसको एक challenge की तरह accept किया, और उसने अपने आप को ultimately upskill किया to face this particular challenge. So yes, it is dynamic, it is changing, and we are the right person to think about.
Thank you, ma'am. Anurag, you have asked a question as to how to improve our body language. So this session, is purely about the VUCA world and how can you build in skills for sustaining in that environment. We'll have a separate session on body language. So there, you will be able to understand as to what you shall do and what you shall avoid, while showcasing a kind of a body language. Ma'am, there is one last question we would like to take by Govind. He says, is VUCA so easy to survive in any environment?
Well, in that case, Govind, I would like to ask you, do you think you're ready to take up any challenge in the world, in the real world for that matter? If you think the answer is yes, you can do anything in your life. Remember, you are not a chicken, you are a small, eagle who is ready to fly. So if you're ready to fly, I think nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you to achieve whatever you wish.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have answered, I think, most of their questions. Subhadeep, you are asking as to what are the skills required for management students for corporate. So I would request you to wait. On 16th, August, we will be having a separate session by Dr. Kamina Khalik on managerial skills for young managers. And there, I think you will be able to get all your answers to these questions. Thank you so much, Nilakshi, ma'am. It was wonderful listening to your address on living in a VUCA world, and I hope all my students will now be able to plan their professions and will be ready with a lot of skills and resilience as another skill to manage living in this VUCA world. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
ma'am, for
much. Thank you so much.
yes,
Thank you,
for
everyone.
taking out time and addressing the students. Thank you, students, for joining this session, and we'll be meeting very soon again on 16th August with another interesting session.